And I think one of the most helpful things on this topic has been just understanding that there's two categories of divorce. And I know you know this, but for everyone listening, Dr. Paul Amato is at Penn State. He's a sociologist there, and he's done a ton of research on this topic. And basically says typically marriages that end in divorce fit into one of two categories: high conflict or low conflict. High conflict is what you might imagine, like what you were describing, Dr. Jerry, of like, there's a lot of just visible dysfunction. There's bad fighting. There might be abuse, or violence, things like that. And in those situations, the children do benefit from a split. Maybe it's temporary to allow some healing to happen. Maybe it's so serious that it needs to be more permanent. But that accounts for about 30% of divorces, according to Amato. And on the flip side, you have low conflict, which is situations where, from the kid's perspective at least, and that, I should have said that with high conflict, the kids like kind of observe it all, they're privy to it. In low conflict, the kids are kind of hidden, far from it, or at least it's more covert. It's hidden from their eyes. They kind of assume and think everything's fine, even if they have like an idea that maybe things aren't perfect, things are kind of dysfunctional. It's not to that same high degree. And so when a divorce happens in those families, it really comes out of the blue. It really, hits them in the back of the head, and they're like, wow, I never saw this coming. And so I found that to be really helpful to understand that there's those two major kind of categories. And, in the high conflict situation, it makes sense that someone would want to get out of that. And in the low conflict, it makes sense that someone would just say, my goodness, this was just like taken out from underneath me. Like, who will I be able to trust? Like, if this thing, my family, which was supposed to be the most permanent, the most foundational thing in the world, is taken from me, like, what's not going to fall apart in my life?
No, I like what you say there, and I think that's an important distinction. I ground it a little bit around security too. So if you have a relationship, a parental relationship, a family that feels secure to you, and then suddenly you find out, oh, my parents are having a divorce and I had no idea. That is a sudden trauma, because it's like, I thought I was in a safe place and all of a sudden I'm not. Whereas the high conflict example you gave, maybe since as long as they can remember, there has always been insecurity. So you go from insecurity, which is your normal, and wanting the divorce feels like moving to security in some level. I mean, maybe not perfect security, but at least better than what was there. So that, I don't know, for me, that's how I kind of frame it a little bit, is around that safety and security.